Hello and welcome. Today, we are diving deep into a skill that, honestly, has become one of the most powerful tools for any data pro out there, Advanced SQL. We're going to explore why getting good at this is an absolute game changer for your career.
All right, so let me ask you something. Do you ever feel like your data skills have just hit a plateau? I mean, you know the fundamentals, but you're not quite able to pull out those deep, meaningful insights you just know are hiding in the data. If that sounds even a little bit familiar, then stick around, because you are in exactly the right place. And look, if you're feeling that plateau, you're definitely not alone. Let's kick things off with what I like to call the data dilemma. We hear it all the time, right? Data is the new oil, the new currency, but the reality? It's a bit more complicated than that. I just love this way of putting it. Think about it. Raw data, by itself, isn't really valuable. It's messy, it's disorganized, it's just a lump of potential. The real magic, the real value, comes from your ability to refine it, to shape it, and to turn that raw ore into something pure and genuinely useful.
And that's where so many of us get stuck. We learn the basics, the essential building blocks for talking to a database. But in today's super complex data world, just scratching the surface isn't going to cut it. That's the starting line, not the finish line.
So how do we push past that? Well, we've got to go beyond the basics. This is where the real untapped power of SQL gets unlocked. This right here perfectly sums up the leap we're talking about. Basic queries are fantastic for telling you what happened. How many sales did we make last month? But advanced queries? Oh, they let you ask why. Why did sales suddenly spike in the third week? What specific user behaviors led to that spike? That's where the real insights are hiding. And to answer those why questions, you need what our source material calls the heavy machinery of querying. We're talking about things like complex joins to beautifully merge different data sets, nested subqueries to get super precise by running queries inside of other queries, and one of my personal favorites and one of the most powerful tools out there, window functions.
Okay, window functions. I know the name sounds super technical, maybe a little intimidating, but don't let it fool you. All it really is a way to do a calculation, like an average or a sum, across a very specific set or window of rows. And here's the key, the real magic. You can do something like calculate a 7-day moving sales average without squashing all your data into a single summary row. It keeps all the detail, but adds this rich layer of context that is just incredibly powerful. Now, let's talk about where these skills really come alive. Because SQL is the silent engine humming away behind some of the most visible and popular data tools used today. You've seen them, right? Those gorgeous interactive dashboards in Tableau or Power BI. They look amazing, but they are just the polished exterior, the tip of the iceberg. Underneath it all, the engine doing the really heavy work of prepping, cleaning, and structuring all that data, yep, it's almost always SQL. This whole process is often called ETL. You extract the raw data, you load it into a tool like Tableau, but that middle step, transform, that's the most critical part. This is where Advanced SQL is the superstar. It's where you clean up messy data, you join different tables together, and you shape everything into a format that can actually tell you something meaningful. Without a really solid transform step, you're basically just visualizing noise. And this is not just for the business world. For students, for academics, this is everything. The ability to write a complex, multi-layered SQL query is, at its heart, an exercise in pure logic. It lets you go beyond just reading what other people have found, and instead lets you dive into real-world data to prove your own hypothesis with cold, hard empirical evidence. Getting good at this isn't just about memorizing commands, though. It actually requires a pretty fundamental shift in how you think, which brings us to what we call the SQL mindset. So many people get tripped up on this. They focus all their energy on memorizing the syntax for functions like lead or rank, but the real challenge, the real hurdle, is conceptual. It's about pulling yourself away from that cell-by-cell thinking of a spreadsheet and embracing a totally new way of seeing your data.
So here's the crucial point. You have to start seeing your database not as a bunch of spreadsheets, but as a collection of related mathematical sets. How do these sets of data overlap? How can you join them, filter them, and run calculations on them to answer one specific question? The moment you make that mental shift, the syntax just becomes a tool. You're thinking in pure logic, and that unlocks absolutely everything.
And believe me, making that shift pays off in a huge, huge way. Let's see how this all ties together to basically future-proof your career.
You know, one of the most beautiful things about SQL is that it is incredibly resilient. The core language doesn't care about brand names. Whether a company is using Postgres, MySQL, or something else entirely, the fundamental principles and syntax you learn are pretty much universally transferable. It's a skill that travels right along with you.
Okay, but what about AI? We hear all this talk about AI generating code. And look, it's a useful tool for sure, but it cannot replace the human in the loop. An AI might be able to write a query, but it has no idea what the underlying business logic is or the subtleties of a research hypothesis. Your expertise is still absolutely essential to check the results and make sure the logic is solid. In short, AI is a coworker, not your replacement.
Ultimately, this is what it all boils down to. This journey isn't just about becoming a better coder. Mastering advanced SQL teaches you how to think critically, how to build a logical argument from the ground up, and how to rigorously question the evidence in front of you. It's a fundamental intellectual skill for our world today.
So, I'll leave you with this question. We are absolutely drowning in information, but true insight is incredibly rare. Advanced SQL is one of the most powerful tools ever made to bridge that gap. The only question left is, how are you going to use it to find the insight that truly matters?